want to hear like stories, Phil, sitting in a corner crying and saying.
Started my business, I had somebody run away with $142,000 that they owed me, and that was a big thing. I'd only been in business for 6 months.
How does one find a good business coach?
End of 2016-17, that was with a clash with the unions. I have an interesting relationship with the unions, the CFMEU.
I saw one of your YouTube videos about it.
Yeah, I can get quite passionate.
Hi everyone, this is Naina from Giddy Up Mate. I'm super excited to have a guest on Giddy Up Mate Studios this Saturday morning. His name is Philemon Filippo, aka Phil. He's a business owner, currently focusing on a business called Build Better Project, which is all about building better people. I'm very, very excited to dive into Phil's very interesting and intense life story and see what learnings we can get out of his story and share that with you. So without much further ado, let me welcome Phil. Hi Phil, how are you?
Naina, thank you very, very much. Hello everyone, hope you're all well. Thanks for inviting me over. We've really been looking forward to this. We've been planning it for a very long time.
Very long time, yeah. And you're finally here, which is great. I'm super excited.
Same.
Yeah. So I think first thing first, tell us a little bit more about Build Better Project. What is that company all about? What are you doing with this organization and how are you helping people? Keen to learn a bit more.
Okay, the Build Better Project, it's been an ever-evolving project for a very, very long time. It all came to me when my daughter was born. Well, she was born in 2015, but in 2014 I was training. I used to train a lot out in the mountains and out in the bush. And before she was born, while my wife was pregnant, I was thinking, how am I going to raise this child? Because I didn't come from a modern, I didn't come from a successful educational background. And I thought, what kind of template can I create? Because I was deemed successful by people around me, what I was doing in business, with myself, working on myself, accomplishments in sports, in my background. And I thought, how the hell did I do it? So then I just started to recreate the processes. And I was in the construction industry, and I used that as a metaphor, as an analogy to build upon. And that's what it became.
See, that's what I meant about very interesting background of Phil's, because he's done, as you can probably sense already, he's done a fair few things, construction industry, people building, all kinds of stuff. But tell us, like, what is Build Better Project all about? What do you do with that business currently, just to set the frame?
So basically, in a nutshell, we teach people to learn how to process issues. How to deal with their breakdowns, how to deal with their breakthroughs. And we do it from a value-based foundation. So the way I have it is, from what I've observed for many years, is people want to move to the penthouse of life. They want the fast cars,
the Ferrari,
fast money,
Mercedes.
Yes, fast fashion, all this kind of stuff. And what happens is life happens. And before you know it, this penthouse, it's not built on very strong foundations. And this is where we see the building crumble, people losing their businesses, relationship breakdowns, family breakdowns, emotional health issues, mental health issues, and we're seeing a very strong epidemic of, well, the situation of suicide, which is a subject that doesn't get spoken about as much as it should. So the way I found it, the way I observed it, it was people were working so hard on attaining stuff without discovering who they were and working on their own stuff inside. So the way the structure works is you have your foundations, and we have 4 modules in the foundations, and they compound into each other. Then we have the core, which has another 4 modules within it. And then we have the upper floors in the penthouse, which creates an identity for a person.
That's awesome.
And it's all about the foundations. And I've worked in construction on some very, very deep, broad foundations.
When you say construction, real construction, building,
commercial
work,
stuff,
concrete.
yes, high-rise concrete, reinforcement, were the first ones in. I see a hole and I see an opportunity, because that's what it was. The deeper the hole, the bigger the opportunity. And a lot of people walk right past that. They look at the facade, the pretty stuff, the things at the top. But they don't understand what kind of a foundation that building is sitting on. and they neglect to observe it for themselves.
So there we go, like from a life of building buildings to building people these days.
People are so much
an awesome
easier as
pivot,
well.
like a massive jump, isn't it? Yeah. And you were saying that this happened to you while you were preparing to be a dad?
Yes. Yeah, it was me trying to figure out how am I going to raise this child, how am I going to supplement her education with the education she's getting, which I don't believe in. I'm very strong about that. Traditional education, public education, private education, I don't believe in it. I don't trust it. So it's often what I tell people is, how did you supplement your child's education today? I'm very radical about it, knowing that she's going to go off to school and she's going to create experiences, and from those experiences she's going to create a story, and then she's going to create a narrative from that story, which means she's now, she's got a meaning around it, and then from that meaning she's going to develop a narrative which just goes through life. And that's when it all happens. It all happens when we're 5, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. Something happens, we make it mean something, and then we carry it. So basically we're a bunch of adults who are carrying around issues from our childhood and behaving like an adult regarding an issue from a child. And that's what I love working on.
That's awesome. Yeah. And tell us a little bit, take us back to the construction, doing that kind of work. And then what does it take to switch from something so different into what gave you the belief that you now want to invest, like completely switch, and you can just convert completely to something different? Well,
I've always known it. I never owned it.
Yeah.
Because growing up in a very in an ethnic background, started working at 9 years old, had 12, 13 different jobs before I finished school at 18. The very next day after my HSC, I got straight into construction, but I always loved observing people. It's just having a Greek background. We grow up at the knees of the elders, listening to the philosophies.
Yeah.
Just the psychology of it and the behaviour of people, the mythologies, and the awesomeness of the culture. I think every culture has its awesomeness. And I look at the deep roots of our culture and what they accomplished. You look at Alexander the Great, and you look at the Spartans, you look at the Athenians, and hearing all these stories and the philosophies around them from a young child, it set a context. Mm-hmm. So as I grew up, I loved observing people, listening to people. I was very curious.
Yeah.
And then when I got into construction and employed people, like I employed almost 1,500 people over the years, and I got to know not all of them, but each one of them, because some would come and go quite quickly. But I got invested in their issues. For some reason, people's issues somewhat turned me on in a way. I got excited by it because it tweaked that thing inside of me that wanted to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So then I'd go and I'd understand it and I'd chew on it. And I'd get my energy. It was a currency for me. Solving problems became a currency, the strategy of it. And then I started to get a lot of education around that. I'd go and do lots of programs, lots of courses.
Okay.
I have had lots of coaches over the years and mentors. I invested a lot of money in myself to become where I am right now, knowing that I need to invest a lot more to become what I want to become.
Yeah.
So in construction, it's a very, very real industry. There's no passive aggressive, there's no white anting, there's no gaslighting. If there's an issue, there's an issue. And it gets spoken into and spoken about very, very openly. And that's how problems are solved. If someone comes to work and something's not well, he would say, listen, this is happening in my life right now. Boom, great.
Very authentic, very real conversations. It's not like, the corporate world where, sometimes you just show up with a kind of a different face than what you're actually feeling because you can't show your true self.
It's a false facade.
Yeah.
And as we said, the building comes up, the building comes down with that false facade. Yes, there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of passion in that industry, but in that, it's usually the issue comes out, and in that also the solution comes out.
Yeah.
So it's just really easy to work on, and hence why I said people are easier to work on than buildings. Building people is easier if they are open and receptive.
Yes, I guess that's the main challenge. With you come with all this value, and then the first problem would be how to convince people to think that they need to change. There's something that needs to be changed. because if the student's not there, there's no meaning of the teacher teaching, because the student's not ready and receptive to learn.
Absolutely. It's need versus want.
Yeah.
Nobody needs anything. I mean, like, yeah, sure, we need food, we need a house, there's that stuff. But when it goes to the next level, it's about what I want.
Yes. Sorry, I'm switching back a little bit back to your childhood. I just want to get to learn the little Phil and family life, or tell us a little bit about your childhood, your growing up. What was the environment like? I know you came from a migrant family, is that right? And moved here from Greece, is that right?
No. Well, I was born here. Parents came from Greece, yes.
Okay, yes, sorry.
I was born here, but in a very ethnic community in an area that everything was Greek.
Oh, really? Okay,
It wasn't until I moved to the other area that I realised that there were so many white people around.
But you've always lived around New South Wales?
Correct.
Yeah, in
Sydney,
Australia.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a little rat bag. I was curious.
Yeah.
I always challenged things. I got into trouble, and I encourage it for my daughter right now to do the same thing. That's okay. The only person that can discipline you is me. Don't worry what the teachers say.
Yeah.
Because we need to challenge. So I was that child. But started working from when I was 9 years old. Not because I needed to, not because I was told to, but because I wanted to. Dad had restaurants. And yeah, so they were into restaurants. And at 9 years old, every Friday, Saturday night, I would go and I'd pass out at 9, 10 o'clock, and I'd just go downstairs in the car park and fall asleep in the car alone. It was until Dad finished at 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I remember I was paid 2 cents for every knife and fork I washed and hand dried, and 5 cents for every glass, and everything had to be dried. If it wasn't dried afterward, I still remember it well, because that was maths. That was simple maths and practical. It just worked out that I earned $30 at the end of every night. But I would calculate everything, and I got to learn to go sit with the customers, sit with the people, and then I waited, and then I worked in the kitchen, and this is 9, 10, 11, that went on.
Yeah.
And I had lots of different jobs. While I was at school, I'd go and get all these other jobs after school because work ethic was important.
Yeah.
So Father taught me a lot about work ethic, how to turn up and how to do things. Because if you've got work ethic, anything is possible.
Yes. Tell us a bit more about your siblings. You grew up in a big family, or?
Yes, 3 sisters.
Three
so
sisters.
It was chaos. And we're all very strong
only
personalities.
The only boy. Okay.
Only boy.
Yes.
So it was interesting growing up.
So was your mom always like, oh, he's my baby boy, and protective and loving, as mothers sometimes get?
I was the favourite.
You're the favourite? Okay.
Yeah,
would your sisters agree if I asked him?
No, but being the only boy in a Greek culture led to certain availabilities that my sisters wouldn't have had.
Okay.
Not that they weren't allowed to do, but it also led to a lot of expectations. The boy can do things different than the girl.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was okay. It wasn't. It was okay. But there were also expectations. From 9 years old, I was told that you're gonna be a strong man. You're gonna have to look after everybody. You're gonna have to work hard. You're gonna have to
much pressure.
You're gonna have to that. And as a 9-year-old, it soaks in, and it creates its own meaning, as a 9-year-old would, as a 10-year-old would, as a 13-year-old would, and then it becomes okay. It's without the guidance from that meaning, because it's all in the unconscious.
Yeah.
It's then goes into channels and paths which sometimes aren't the best paths. So then it often led into me getting into trouble. I'm very experiential, so I love having experiences.
Troublemaker,
yeah, a bit of a troublemaker, but I also had strong virtues ingrained into me from family. So I knew the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, for better use of the word as well. Often I would meander down the bad, but also knowing it made me feel bad. And that was good because I had the experience. I knew what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I knew what kind of friends I didn't want to hang around because they were doing certain things. And like I said, sometimes I was around it and observing it, which means I was part of it still.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate to bring myself back, think about what I needed to do, who I needed to become.
Yeah.
Because I always had a big game in my head, a big life, a big vision in my head, always.
I think your real school sounds like that business that your dad owned. that restaurant business. And I think that and the family, that's more you're learning than the learning at school. I think that has more influence,
Yes.
it seems to be.
School was babysitting.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, 9 till 3? What hours?
Yeah,
did kids
something
go to
like that,
school?
9 till 3.
Yeah, something like that. It was fun. It taught lessons in the playground. I remember very little about what happened in the classroom. I can't.
Yeah.
I really don't have many memories in the classroom.
Was there any particular extracurriculars or sports that you were really... Yeah, sports. Soccer?
Ancient history. Soccer, yes. It's the only thing, I failed school miserably. So I think they call it an ATAR now, I think. Back then it was your TER when you do your HSC. And I got a 15 and under, which means they didn't even give me my score, because when it's under 15, they don't even give you the score.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
that's brutal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I got a 7. I don't want to offend the kid. But I
did okay in life.
I probably didn't even open up the letter for weeks. I wasn't there for that. I was at school because Mum wanted me to finish school. But what was the question? The question was leading towards school and what I remember. Ancient history. I think I got top 7% in the state in ancient history. I loved ancient history. Went into the Greek culture, went into the Roman culture, the Egyptian culture, and there's so much richness there I found, and I created some real powerful stories from that space. So that's the only thing I really enjoyed, was ancient history and sport. And
then you finished school. Why didn't you choose to go join your dad's business? Why did you move into construction?
Restaurants it's a hard industry. I never enjoy. If I don't like what I'm doing, I won't do it. It's as simple as that. And I started so young in it, but also saw the hours Dad worked. So he wasn't home at night because he had to run the restaurant. And it was just weekends, or when I worked on weekends at the restaurant. And I dare say inside of me, I knew that wasn't a good life, because one, it wasn't a good life for family. Two, I was young. I wanted to party. Work Friday, Saturday nights. No way. I'm going out. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just fell into construction. A friend asked me, do you want to come to work tomorrow? It was the day, he asked me that the day I finished my HSC, my last exam. And I said yes, but also knew I was better than that. I knew inside of myself. So it was just part of the journey. Yeah. And so then you started your first job in construction industry, and you were there for like 25 years, 35 years? Good 25 years or so. Yeah. And with a goal 10 years ago, it was a goal to get out in 10 years, which I accomplished in 7. Oh, nice. Okay. COVID helped that. Yeah. And there was a really big intention. I'd done the whole let's scale thing. Yeah. And I scaled 3 cities, lots of men, lots of money, all that stuff. Yeah. But it wasn't driving me. I didn't like it. For me, it was just make money, get out, and do what I want to do. Yeah. And then that's going to evolve into do what I want to do, and then evolve again. Yeah. I'm a generalist. I don't like the whole idea of becoming a specialist. Right. Okay. And so then you mentioned, I think you took some time off to build better project. Is that the frameworks? Did you took some time off to do that? What happens next after the... So it's been built really, it's been evolving since 2014, 2015, been tweaked along the way. Had some variations, the courses, the programs. COVID taught me I needed to go online. I used to deliver a lot of workshops and receive feedback. Yeah. And then COVID came, and I'm not an online learner, but I thought, hold on, this has to go online, especially with the vision we had. Yeah. And then I consciously reached the point where I could leave the construction industry. And then I told myself I'm going to take a couple of years off. I'm 18 months, 19 months into that now. What did your wife say to that? Oh, no, that's okay. She loves being a mum. Okay. And she can do, she's free to do what she enjoys doing, but also knows that I'm an itchy person. Yeah. I travel a lot on my own. She was supportive? Yeah, supportive. It's because I know I'll have a big reaction if my husband came to me tomorrow and said, I want to take 2 years off and I want to build something, and I'll be like, okay, where's the money coming from? Yeah, and we've traveled a lot. Like, we're off to Brazil in 2.5 weeks. And so I made sure that the money was there. Yeah. And I made sure strategically. Yeah. And what I did, I had the funds to support myself
Yeah.
for that time, support the family.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
One of the things that kills creativity is when we have to think about money. And then we sell ourselves. We
Yeah.
become prostitutes,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
We do what we don't want to do.
Yeah.
We become who we don't want to become. And
Yeah.
we complain, we whine. So I got to create in this free space and really sit and think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And it was fun. And then it became, okay, let's get into business. Let's get back into business
That's
again
nice.
now. Not thinking about doing it for the money, but doing it for the value and the purpose, which was good. I just got to that point in my life, especially since my father passed, and I realised what enough was. And I told him what I was doing the week before for the first time, and he went through it, and he goes, "Oh, this is good stuff. We never had this stuff growing up." And that was a really, really good moment, actually, because he used to say, "What are you doing? What do you do?" And I go, "I'm working it out. I'm working it out." And then when I worked it all out, and I showed him, it was really cool.
Was he proud of you?
Yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
always was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good.
That's very rewarding when your parents say, "Oh, like love the work you're doing," and wish we
Yeah.
had that. So.
Even when I was in construction, he was very proud. He'd come past some of the jobs
Oh.
and look at them, because I was born into business. Yeah, it was watching them, but I also learned how not to do business through them. I'm a big fan of having anti-mentors as well, where you don't have successful people around you. So,
Okay.
yeah, Mum and Dad were awesome workers. They were good at business, but they also weren't good at business with the way they done a lot of things, and they didn't supplement their education, so to speak.
Okay.
And so I learnt a lot about that.
Tell us a little bit about some of the learnings, business learnings, some of the challenges you may have overcome, because your story seems really positive, that you were a very driven person, you go-getter, you got everything. Life's never that easy and things are never that simple. So maybe your mindset is that way, or...
No. My mind has definitely evolved and tweaked due to experiences, and I've had my ass kicked a lot.
Yeah.
So I started originally FFR Group during the GFC back in 2007, 2008, and everyone said I was crazy.
Yeah.
But I've always thought, if everyone's saying something, I'm going to look at what the opening is.
Yeah.
And even now, we've built Better Project. We're starting in what we've been told is a recession. It's possibly going to degrade. Well, it's possibly going to become even more of one as we move forward, and that excites me. Challenges.
Yeah, I
So
want to hear
many.
like stories, Phil, sitting in a corner crying and saying, "Oh my God, what have I done? This is the biggest mistake of my life. How am I going to get through it?" Was there ever a moment like this? How I'm going to pay my bills?
Yes, the first year I started my business, I had somebody run away with $142,000
What?
that they owed me, and that was a big thing. I'd only been
Oh my
in business
gosh.
for 6 months, and they owed me $142,000, and I knew I wasn't going to get that, and that was a pretty dark period.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I remember literally just thinking to myself, I want to kill this person if I find him.
Oh my
And I brought those issues home. So then
Yeah.
I've been together with my wife for about 10 years, but we'd only been married 3 months. And I just got fixated on it, and she ended up moving out actually.
Because you were...
Yeah, so
because
I'd
of
only been
how
married
you-
for 3 months, but my beingness was
Yeah.
there was so much resentment, and I was just focused on revenge really.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a
Did
good
you ever
mate of
find
mine-
that guy
No,
again?
no, I don't think about it
Oh my
now.
God.
Actually, I do. I know if I don't. But I think differently about it. Because a friend
All
of
right.
mine grabbed me and just literally gave me a slap and said, "There's so much opportunity out there. What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
And that 140 grand we made real quick after that.
Okay.
It just shifted the energy. But that was, I had to sell a unit that I had. I had to fix the marriage because
Yeah.
obviously the wife moved out.
Yeah.
So that was a beautiful lesson, great experience in hindsight, because it taught me a lot about business systems, how to have.
What did you learn from it? What did you do different after that incident?
Definitely didn't let people owe me money for too long.
Yeah.
I defined the clients I wanted to work for and work with, which was very important. I knew I needed some structure and systems because I wasn't very fixed on that kind of stuff. I got a coach
Okay.
not long after, and really just raised my own standards. So
How do you Sorry, I'll let you finish that thought, then I'll come back to my
Yeah,
question.
so it taught me a bunch of stuff. Taught me a bunch of stuff about business. Now, if I wanted to evolve further, I needed to have some principles, some foundations, some fundamentals there, and I had to become familiar with them. Because you can make money,
Yeah.
but you can also lose money if you don't know how to attain, hold,
Yeah.
and create even more money from that money.
Yeah, that's awesome. The question that was coming to my mind when you said business coach, how does one find a good business coach? Like, how did you go on about it? Like, because you could be, you want to trust the person who's giving you that advice, right? How did you find your business coach in this process?
Through an interview, actually. Well, even back then, when I look at who I was back then, I was still very ignorant, very naive, and I trusted. I came from a background of trust nobody until they earn it.
Yeah.
Now, that was putting me in an environment of people that weren't trusting each other. Everyone was holding their cards.
Yeah.
He was ripping him off, I was ripping him off. That was just the way it happened. Then I switched it through a program I did, some course I did, and I switched it radically to trust everyone until they show otherwise. And since I've taken that approach, I haven't been ripped off that much. Sure,
Okay.
there's some people out there that play that game, but it opened up an abundance of opportunities because I led through, you know what, I trust you. Let's see how we go. Let's have business. And then that person would feel that or listen into that, and then it created great relationships. So the first time I met a business coach, I was in that frame actually of trust everyone until, and I was a pain in the ass. Simon is a great friend of mine. We're just talking this week, and we're going to be meeting next week about the new vision. So I'm not being coached by him anymore, but he's somewhat of a mentor and a confidant in a way. And he, for 9 months, I pay in advance. One big thing, if you want to get something out of something, put skin in the game. I'm a big fan. If you don't have skin in the game, you're wasting your time. So I paid a year in advance. I had the money. I thought, okay, let's see what all this coaching's about. People say it's good. I knew nothing about it. Now coaching's all over the place.
Yeah.
So I paid it. And for 9 months, I was like that. I'm making good money or whatever. I'm making millions. And I'm at 40-something% margins. Why do I want to listen to this? Why do I want to listen to that?
Yeah.
But I also knew inside of me that, no, this is important stuff. I was rejecting it because I didn't understand it. And after 9 months, I started to apply it. And I thought, this is really good. This is working. And then there was a big dip in margins because new systems were being put in place, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then things really turned around and opportunity opened up. But to answer your question, it's we interview everyone. When I'm getting an accountant, I'm interviewing him.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing that. I'm interviewing her, him. And what do I want? And what am I looking to get? And then I lead with those questions. And then I would hold that person accountable to it.
Yeah.
What's their background?
Yeah.
Do I resonate with them? Give me 3 or 4 clients of yours. If I was going to ask someone now what they want to do.
Yeah. Would you reference check that person?
Yeah. I want to speak to some of your clients.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're brilliant, but they're not brilliant for you. I had one coach once, and I likened it to he was driving a Ferrari and I was still a Holden Commodore. He was a great coach.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was too much for me. I'd love to sit and have a chat with him these days. It would be a great conversation. But he was just at a different level, and I was at a different level, and he was the wrong coach for me. There's some people that really love gushiness and strong empathy, and like I'm not that person. So I use industrious compassion when I work with people. There's compassion and empathy behind it, but it's with industriousness behind it. It's problem solving. We're not gonna sit and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah.
Let's move into a new space.
And you continue to learn. It seems like you're a learner all the time. You're learning new things. How do you learn new business skills, people skills? Like you podcast listener, you take courses. What do you do?
By experiencing.
By experience.
Yeah, I'm an experience junkie.
You're an active kind of person.
Yeah, it logically makes sense. Analytically, it works out. Rationally, I can understand both parts, and intuitively feels right. But until I do it and embody it, even if it's the wrong thing to do, that's how I learn. So I'll listen to things. I'll listen to a variety of things. I believe in range.
Yeah.
And then I go out and play. And then I receive feedback. I know where I need to correct.
Yeah.
What I want to do, what I don't want to do. And then if it's part of my becoming, and I'll take it on if it is. If it's not, it just gets... It's a great story.
Yeah. You're very clear about yourself and the way you operate. It just seems like you have that clarity about yourself. Do you do a lot of self-retrospection, self-reflection, meditation maybe? How do you know yourself very clearly, it seems to me, from a third-person perspective?
It's...
you know what you want, you know what you like.
And that changes all the time.
Yeah.
Because
how do you know yourself so well?
Well, I love how you finish with know yourself there. It's everything I do is quite active. So active meditation in that way. I spend a lot of time thinking. I write, I do voice recording, I do all this stuff, but in my office, I've got over 200 plants. They need lots of tending, and it's a big space. And people often ask me, so what do you do? And I'll tell them, well, like I think, and then I think about what I'm thinking about. And I think that if what I'm thinking about is serving me, or do I need to think about something else to change my thinking about what I was thinking about? So what could I be thinking about? Like, it's just great. I love playing those games. I don't take myself too serious. If you take yourself too serious, there's this neuroticism there. So I love to play. And I touched on the culture earlier when you said how you know yourself. Now, you got the Delphic principles on the temple of Apollo over there, and we've all heard the phrase, know thyself, that was written. It's still, we don't know who to credit that phrase to. There's been a few names, but there's actually, there's actually 142, 143 principles ascribed across that temple. And the three main ones, which I love from when I was young, is yes, know thyself, nothing to excess or nothing in excess, and certainty brings insanity, when it's roughly translated to that. So I never want to be certain on something. I'm committed, but not attached. So that's something I'm a big believer on. Be committed, but not attached. Because certainty can bring insanity. Be flexible, think differently, change your thinking, challenge yourself. Nothing in excess. Now we're going into gluttony, laziness, hedonistic pleasures in that way. And in that, you learn to know thyself. You learn more about yourself, not being fixed on it.
Yeah, like children. Like they're flexible. They just float. They're just, they're not, their minds are fresh and ready to receive. That's awesome. Tell us a bit about maybe give us an example of another challenge where you said, I've had enough. I need to throw this hat in. I'm done with it. And lessons that you learned from that challenge and experience.
Now, I shared the other story. Now, that was very early on in business. When I'd become quite established, going back in 2016, end of 2016, 17, that was with a clash with the unions. I have an interesting relationship with the unions, the CFMEU.
I saw one of your YouTube videos about it.
I can get quite passionate about them. I hyenas, that's what they are.
Yeah.
I was looking to build a relationship because I wanted to expand into 3 or 4 states, 1,000 men. I showed them the plan, the blueprint of it, and we had this big vision, these big goals. And it comes down to ethics and virtues and principles, and I stick by mine very, very strongly. And just careful how I share the story, but basically they challenged all of those things of mine and promised to put me out of business. And back then it was FFR Group, and I couldn't win any work. It was weird. Couldn't win any work. It went on for 18 months where I couldn't win a contract. I had already lost directly well over $1 million, and there was easily over $5 million in contracts, to the point where somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, listen, if we give you a job, we're going to have nothing but issues with the unions. And I didn't tell you this, he said.
But what happened? Like, why were they so...
Because it became, hey, I'm going to use the word extortion. Yeah, people say it doesn't exist. I don't really care anymore. I'm not there, and I can share it openly.
Yeah.
I have little respect for them. What they stood for back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the principles, very good. They're just a bunch of grubs now, and if you're watching, I don't really care. You're a bunch of grubs, really.
Sorry.
Bottom of the bucket. And And they done lots of things to try to send me out. Now, they've done this before to people, and they've gone over to, a lot of them have gone to Queensland, Western Australia, South Australia, because that's all they had. They only had that business. Well, I stood up to it, and I wasn't going to allow it to happen. And I thought, well, you can win the battle, but not going to win the war, as they say. So when I got wind that they were blocking any process or any progress for me to move forward, I went to my accountant. I just said, we're starting a new company. And he said, okay, good. I told him, he knew what was going on. And I go, okay, good, well, let's start it. And let's get it going, because I want to go win some work. And he goes, well, what's the name of the company? And I said, FTU Constructions. And he goes, what's that stand for? I said, unions. So you can beat that out.
Yeah.
But that's the passion I had behind it. And I didn't care at that stage. That's what
and that company how
went
old
and
were
won
you
contract. This is just in 2018.
Yeah, okay.
18, 19.
It's not fairly recent.
Yeah, and we ended up winning a lot of contracts because they won their little game of, we're going to shut that company down.
Right, okay.
I had my manager be the face of that company. I was in the background, the contracts and that, but it was managed by then as well.
Yeah.
And then work absolutely took off. We won so much work across Sydney, massive projects. And it was a bit of it's a good story for me, because it was going up against a big organisation that works very unethically, and coming out, especially, just coming out the other side better. Yeah. Built better from it. So that experience was a big one, because it really put me through some pain for a few years, but made me better. Now I can laugh at it.
Yeah, and now you're ready to take on any challenge. You're like, giddy up, bring it on, whatever. If I've done that, I can do anything. Yeah,
that's right. When you come against a pack of hyenas and come out the other way better and stronger for it,
it builds
it's
confidence.
Like, what else? It's all good.
Yeah. Now we're coming to the end of this conversation. I'd love to know from you, Phil, if you've ever thought about purpose of your life, if you believe in such a thing, and if you do, and if you're willing to share with us your purpose of life and the purpose of your business and how you see it going forward, I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, it's the purpose. Purpose is an interesting conversation that can go many ways. It could be as simple as if somebody just wants to be a mum and they're happy. It brings them joy. It brings them fulfillment. That's the purpose. It's as simple as that. If you're complaining, you're whining, you're bickering, you're dissatisfied about something, don't do it. Or you can do it, but you're not in purpose. You're not in alignment with yourself, what you can offer the world. And we don't have to offer the world big things. Yeah. It's just simple things. And I really believe in that. In Greek we have a word, evdaimonia. It's untranslatable, but if it was translatable, it would be fulfillment. A lot of people are seeking happiness. What a small game. Like, to seek happiness. To seek happiness, you have to be okay with sadness and all the other negative emotions, anger, pain, sorrow, because that's all it is an emotion. Fulfillment is something bigger, because you can go through pain, sorrow, all these other emotions, but you're still fulfilled. It's a bigger thing to live into, and living into that is purposeful.
And what's your purpose? What's your personal purpose, if you're willing to share that with us?
Yeah, it's something, I like doing big, ridiculous things, because why not? I created the goal to be financially free and have house paid off investments, blah, 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 all this stuff, investing companies. And I created that 10 years ago, and I reached this little mountain. I didn't recreate. And I thought the next one I want to take so big that it's going to take me to my deathbed. Actually, it's going to probably take me into my next life, but I don't care, because it's fun. Remember, don't be serious. We can all play. So I was sitting, what is so big and scary that makes me almost embarrassed to talk about it? And when we were sitting there in the office, okay, how many people do we want to impact? Because we want to go into different languages, different countries around the world. And we said, a million people is nothing, but you can do that really quick. I can probably do that in 5 years, 10 years, 20, it depends. I thought, but then it needs to be a round figure. And so we said, that's, 500 million sounds a lot. And we said, bugger it, 1 billion. 1 billion people. And we laughed.
Yeah,
That's just stupid. If you can impact 1 billion people by 2050 or until I die, you know. But I got my daughter already telling her, you're going to run this thing, you know. This is going to be your thing when you get older. So we said 1 billion people, and I'd like to have my own international school set up. I'm a big fan of the way they're set up. They really teach more entrepreneurship rather than this structured education, outdated traditional education. And our own international school by 2040. I won't be involved in it, but I'd like to just have something involved with a curriculum by 2040.
That's an awesome goal to have.
Yeah, it is. And if it doesn't work, I'm not attached. I'm committed but not attached, because it's the becoming of the person. Because in 5 years, who am I going to be? Like that's amazing if I'm living into something like that. I have to challenge my actions, my behaviours.
Yeah.
I have to observe all of these things and become a different person to become that. I can't become that now.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Isn't that the becoming of us?
I love your purpose statement there, impacting 1 billion people by 2050, and we are 2023 now. So you've got like 27 years or so to impact how many you have already impacted minus 1 billion. So that's
and if
awesome
it's 1,000, how good's that?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the thing. I'm not cheapening it by saying that.
Yeah.
It's just, why do we think so small?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I congratulate you to even have a goal, a big goal like that in the first place. Wherever you get from that point on, it's plus and plus. So it's awesome. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, Phil. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with? Is there anything more you want to share? We've learned a lot from your life lessons today, and you've had a very colorful and interesting and intense life, I would say.
Yeah, it's been fun. I can talk for hours about the stories. Just take action. It's a big thing. Not the action, just a action, which leads to another action, which leads to another action. Something that I've taught my daughter, and she knows it off by heart, is practice makes better, better makes progress, progress makes the master. So it's become masterful at something. It's all about just practicing, making mistakes, experiencing things, receiving feedback, create an inquiry, go out there and have an enquiry, and then come back in and think about it. But we're only here for a blip. Have fun with it. Don't take yourself too serious. And another thing I love telling all the kids is, don't be good because it's boring.
That's an awesome line to leave this podcast at, or this video at. So thank you, Phil. Thank you for spending so much time with us today. It's been wonderful getting to know you and listening so many stories from you. I'm really grateful for your time. And I hope to catch up with you at some point in future and see how you're going with your goal and how you're tracking. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.